Conrad Fisher is the example of a flawed man and what to do in order to make him not toxic and someone who is completely redeemable for our main love interest, main protagonist. This is toxic, this is flawed. Toxic, flawed. Toxic, flawed. So if you haven't noticed, the background might be a little bit different because... Yay! Finally moved! Oh god. This has been probably the most hectic 2 weeks of my life. I was gonna say forgive the clutter, but I actually somehow managed to find the one area right now that isn't cluttered. Getting down to business here, I really did want to go over the exemplary, the summer I turned pretty, Conrad Fisher, Mr. Peach himself.
My peach, peach, peach. What's mine? The peach in your hand, my peach.
How we were able to write a incredibly intricate character with so many layers, so much depth to him, and how he is the example of what these other authors, ones who are writing Hardin after series, and the type of flawed male character they should be looking to writing that is redeemable to get back together with the main protagonist. What is essentially redeemable versus irredeemable, and the main differences in the way these guys represent toxicity versus just unhealthiness, and the reasons behind their behavior, and if they should end up with the main protagonist or not, given the growth path and their journey and what they have done to heal themselves. Spoiler alert, one of them exemplifies this flawed male character very well, while the other poorly does it. As per usual, my notes, not being rude. By the way, I am only going to be using examples from the media pieces, like the movies and the TV shows, just because I have read the Summer I Turned Pretty books, but I have not read the After series, so just to try and keep it fair, I will input some things that I know from the After series books and tidbits here and there, but for the most part I am going to be referring to mostly the movies and the TV show. First of all, in order to understand the root of their flawed behavior slash toxicity, we have to understand where this comes from to begin with and the situations that we're dealing with here. And funny enough, both of these men have family issues, and that is the root of the problem for both of them and their actions and behavior, which is kind of nuts, but also pretty common. In the first example of Hardin, he has what I like to call daddy issues. Now, sorry if you get triggered by that phrase, but it simply is put that way. With his dad, okay, we learned that his dad was fairly abusive growing up. And a lot of Hardin's behaviors come from his upbringing and his relationship with his father. The dad was very abusive to Hardin because turns out he's not the father.
You are not the father.
For this reason, he lashes out at Hardin. We see that he actually makes Hardin bonk his head as a kid because he's trying to take this book away from him. He's being very aggressive, and so it's this type of behavior that has stuck with him. Really the tip of the iceberg, as far as we know, as far as we see, is the dad choosing to abandon Hardin and his mom in a pivotal moment of need when the mom went through, unfortunately, an attack, and at that point the father left after that. It is honestly insane. Like, that is messed up. I'll give Hardin that. In his shoes, I definitely would hate my dad, if he left my mom and me when she really needed him and she was literally attacked. That would be crazy. That's nuts. I don't blame you, Hardin. However, because of this upbringing and because of these experiences that he's had in the past, it has now shaped him up to who he is as a person, which is an asshole.
What an asshole!
Hardin Scott is a dick.
Fuck you! Fuck you!
When you think about it, if he really spent more time with his mom, you would think that he would learn how to treat women better, and considering how terrible his dad, but anyway, it can have an opposite effect on people. He's an absolute dick, and the way he treats women is actually insane, because it's not even just Tessa, but he is known for treating women improper. We even see it ourselves at one point. He literally lets some girl fall off it, like throws her basically off his lap. Like, bruh. The way Hardin behaves and who he is as a person is essentially blamed on because of his upbringing, more so because of his father, that he didn't have a proper father figure to guide him, to teach him the correct ways. For his case, it's not a current thing that is happening in his life that is currently making him lash out and currently putting him in a sour mood or making him act improper towards people. It's how he's been and how he's been raised. So that's definitely harder, but not impossible. I do want to keep positive and say, you know, obviously it's not impossible for people to change. It's not impossible for people to learn and grow, but it is definitely more difficult in Hardin's case to learn and grow from it because he has been this way for his whole life, essentially, from what we see, and didn't have any proper guidance, it seems like. Whereas Conrad's case, in contrast, everything that he's doing, him lashing out, him acting stubborn, him being bitchy, all of his reasoning is because of a current situation that's happening and not who he is as a person and not how he's grown up to be. He's simply just going through it because his mom is literally dying. I want you to repeat after me. His mom is dying. Season 1, Conrad is the only one who knows that his mom has cancer, or at least he thinks he's the only one who knows that his mom has cancer. And so him lashing out, being in a mood, him being kind of snarky, having an attitude towards things throughout that whole season is simply him being in that mood because of keeping this in. He is holding all of that in, and he is doing that to protect everybody else who he loves. And yes, we come to acknowledge that that is a bad trait, that is an unhealthy thing to do and an unhealthy quality to have. You should talk to people, you should say truth and communicate. As something he lacks, he thinks that he can just take everything all in and protect people, when that's not necessarily what you should be doing all the time. And then come season 2, this affecting his relationship is because she's on her last leg. So he finds out she has cancer, also finds out that his dad cheated on his mom, so that also blows him up as well. Like, he's literally having to bottle 2 of the biggest family impact in season 1, which is just nuts to me. Again, with the situation that is happening, that then creates this unhealthy relationship between him and Belly. I would like to say not toxic. I don't know if I'm going to get flack for that, but unhealthy, because he is bottling it all up still, not allowing him to just let go and talk to his partner about it. He's not relying on her where he should be, and he's still bottling everything up in himself. And so this does, end up affecting the relationship, because he therefore ends up pushing her away because of that. He forgets things, and when he is supposed to show up for her, he's depressed and it isn't smiley, he's not happy, he's, in a mood. So all of that unfortunately creates all of this tension in their relationship and ultimately ends up with them breaking up. But to understand him and where he's coming from, situational. This is an entire situation that I myself have never gone through, and hopefully will not have to go through for years of my life. But I know how close I am with my parents, and seeing how Conrad is right now, I 100% would be that and more probably if either of my parents were in that position with cancer. We do get glimpses of who he is actually as a person in those first couple seasons. We get flashbacks from Belly's point of view and how helpful he is to her, how kind he has been to her for years before she turned pretty. She was always cute. Oh my god. Anyway, we do understand that that's not who he is as a person. And even within that whole first season, she keeps wondering, she's like, that's not my Conrad. Like, I don't know why he's like this, but that's just not him. It just goes to show how him being this way, him being the flawed character that he is mostly situational and not having to do with him as a person. There are things with him as a person, of course, because even with the situation, it highlights, again, his lack of communication skills, his need to protect other people and not being able to talk about things with other people and just bottling things in for himself, like how unhealthy those qualities are. But at the end of the day, it's a situation. Now that we understand where these guys are coming from, let's talk about how this ends up affecting them and their relationships and the behaviors that they do exhibit because of this background, and if these behaviors are acceptable, if they're flawed but acceptable, or if they're straight up toxic as shit. Which, spoiler alert, for Hardin, absolutely. Who are you even kidding? Are you serious? I am like the #1 anti-Hardin person. What do y'all see in this man? What do y'all see in this relationship? I don't know if you know my channel, but if you look back on many of my videos, I always hate on Hardin. Fuck you, Hardin. I hate you so much. Worst main character love interest I've ever seen in my life. This guy is toxic as shit. I should have a hat that actually says Hardin hater. I am a Hardin hater. Fight me on. If you have grown up in a toxic environment with a toxic father who abandoned you, then I can also understand that you didn't have a good example of a man in your life to guide you. But at the end of the day, sir, I don't know if your dad taught you to swear at women, to belittle women,
You just won't give up. What more do you need?
to push women, to place bets on women and treat them essentially like trash. Maybe it explains it better in the books, let me know. But to me, it just does not justify his behavior whatsoever. He lashes out at Tessa, swears at Tessa, berates Tessa, says things just to hurt her, has jealousy issues / abandonment issues. The way he reacts to Tessa anytime she gets even remotely close to a guy, even if they're not together and broken up, is very concerning. For example, Trevor, okay? Tessa doesn't even kiss. They don't even do anything, but he does find her in her room and has that whole fucking Trevor! It's none of your business because you're not together at that point. But that freaking out, lashing out because he's worried that she's going to move on to someone else and essentially leave him. Asking her later on when Trevor's not even around, that he's not even in the picture, if she ever had feelings for him, with her being open and honest and saying that she thinks she might have, to then him storming out, not even being able to listen to her. Oh my god. And then Robert. Oh my freaking goodness, Robert. Robert was the worst. He's literally a waiter. He's a waiter! Taking her. Oh! They're not even laughing. They're just smiling at each other. Just cordial, friendly smiles. And he's good looking, obviously. He's a waiter. And so he gets threatened that easily that he bumps him when he goes back to his seat and then starts treating him like a peasant. Like waitstaff peasant. Ugh, so disgusting. Ugh, I hate it when people are rude to waitstaff. That's gross. And even has a nightmare about Tessa banging this guy when they've literally only talked once. It's actually crazy. That's crazy. All these examples 100% exemplify obviously jealousy issues, but I think it comes from a deep root of abandonment issues, that he is worried that she's going to leave him for another guy, a better guy, which she should. If he truly loved her and truly knew how terrible he was as a person, he would want better for her, but whatever. Just honestly, just a negative person. Even on her birthday, when she allows him to spend the day with her for whatever reason, he just complains the entire time that they're doing stuff together and is only happy when they bang. They also go through that toxic cycle of arguing and then banging and then arguing and then banging. Super toxic. We never see them being happy apart from banging, which is crazy to me. That could be a movie flaw. Let me know, book lovers, if There have been many parts in the after books where they're not banging when they're happy. Besides reading. That's probably the only other time I've seen them happy together is when they're just reading. Any other time, you let me know. Is the fun in the room with us? Because no, I haven't seen it. He also causes fights. Even when Tessa is doing something good for herself, he argues with her. And even when she wants him with her, oh my god. They have this whole thing. There's this whole point where Tessa wants to move and she asks Hardin to move with her and he's literally like, no. I'm not gonna do that, Tessa. What'd I do out there, Tessa? And then she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna go then because that's something I want to do for myself. And then he freaks out at her again. Abandonment issues, worried with her leaving him, but then it's like she literally offered for you to come with her and wanted you to be with her. So why? All in all, his behavior is absolutely toxic, absolutely disgusting. Disgusting! Unacceptable. I don't think anyone should be putting up with that and has absolutely in their right to leave that and look for a healthier relationship and look for a relationship where there are problems, but healthier problems, because there are issues in every relationship, I will say. I don't think I've met a single relationship that didn't have its issues, ups and downs, you know, that you have to work through as a couple. But there are certain things that I genuinely believe like you really should leave that person. For me, I would deem this very hard to overcome and come back from for this relationship in particular. Not to say that he can't grow as a person, not to say that he can't overcome these challenges himself, but that I don't believe he should go back to Tessa at this point because of all of this that he's put her through. I think that he should grow on his own and be with another person after Tessa, after he's learned all of that and being able to bring in that healthiness and growth into that relationship so that that person doesn't have to go through essentially what Tessa had to go through. However, in Conrad's case, totally redeemable, in my humble opinion. Totally fair, because listen, despite his mom dying, he doesn't lash out at Belly. In the first season, yes, he does have quite a bit of rude behavior. I would say he's mostly rude and has an attitude. Just negative overall towards everything. He'll be like, no, I don't want to do that. No, F that, I don't want to do it. You know, like he's in a mood. Like moody teenager, brooding teenager, Mr. Brood over here. But still King Peach. He's just in this dark cloud in season 1. And that's because his mom's dying and his dad cheated on his mom, his dying mom. Even with that fact, he only ever does just childish things, but not abusive things. For example, he crashes Belly's date, which is pretty rude, obviously, but that was also him lashing out because he obviously likes her and is jealous, but he ruins her date in a really childish way. Immature, right? And then instead of just owning his shit, he still puts it back on Belly. They have an argument and he's just like, yeah, well, if you would stop staring at yourself in the mirror or something like that. But comes back from it. One thing I do like about him is that he is accountable. Hardin, he'll say sorry, but Conrad words it as more of accountability. Like, I know I did wrong. It was totally my bad. I shouldn't have done that. Overall, he's just bitchy. That's all he's being. It's just like a little bitchy. Nothing to actually harm Belly. She even says, because he's having substance abuse. Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, Hardin also has substance abuse issues. And then in season 1, Conrad is drinking quite a bit too. So that's also just a thing that both of them are going through. But with that, he also is smoking weed in this season. And so even with that, Belly is like at one point that she'll smoke weed with him unless he stops. And so then instead of allowing her to smoke weed with him, he stops. So, you know, he still does things to look out for her like that. It's the little things like that that I'm like, okay, he's not doing anything to actually harm her. It's definitely not abusive. And then we go into season 2. We see the downfall of their relationship. And Like I said, it was the last leg of his mom being alive for just the last few months. He knew that she was about to die. And he's just depressed. He simply is just not there and is just not emotionally available for Belly. He's just shut off. You can overcome that considering that it would be normal for anybody to be depressed while their parent is dying. I think. He is forgetful. He is very much not caring about anything except for that, and so he fumbles Belly's prom. He forgets the corsage, which he apologizes for, by the way. Feels really bad about it and isn't like, he doesn't even play the mom card, you know what I mean? Any other person could easily be like, hey, my mom's dying, give me a break. Give me a break here. Anybody could do that, and even then, if my friend was acting out on me and was like, hey, like my mom's dying, give me a break, I would actually be like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Conrad doesn't even bring it up. He won't even mention it to her as a, you know, feel sorry for me type of ploy. He still just keeps it to himself and doesn't lash it out on her or anything. He just simply apologizes for not being there. Clearly was trying his best because despite his mom dying, he still made the effort to take her to her prom and be there for her. But obviously he wasn't, he just was not there. He was gone. Overall, everything that he did that we saw was just him being emotionally unavailable for his partner and him pushing her away in that sense because he can't talk to her. He can't be happy. He can't communicate. He's just simply a turtle in a shell. In my humble opinion, he doesn't do anything that's irredeemable. He doesn't do anything that's entirely insanely wrong. I didn't actually see him doing anything wrong, despite the world of the summer I turned pretty thinking that he harmed Belly so harshly, even though his mom was dying and he was just depressed. All in all, totally redeemable. For this last section, the comeback, right? Now we're going to see the comparison between how the after series has Hardin grow versus how the summer I turned pretty has Conrad grow. And spoiler alert, yet again, after series, you amaze me because what the hell was that? What the hell kind of growth even is? There is no growth. Where is it? Bitch, where? Just finished watching that movie where it's supposed to be Hardin's growth journey, where it's supposed to be him becoming a man instead of a boy. But I still saw a boy by the end of this film. And that could be the film's fault and not the book's fault, because I've seen comments, because people are diehard fans of the series. I know there are, so apologies, because I obviously don't really like the series. Apparently in the book, he did go to therapy. Apparently. Correct me if I'm wrong, or explain it if you have read the books, but I have seen some comments saying that he did go to therapy in the books, whereas here, he didn't. I know there was at one point in a previous film that he went to AA. They don't show him going to therapy. They show him instead going to an ex who he over by sending their tape out to a guy who then ended up leaking it to everybody and have him go to her to make amends with her. But then she ends up being his therapist. She ends up being the one that has to listen to his shit and have him try and work through his shit. What? It's like, boy, didn't you put this girl through enough already? They have this whole boat ride where they're just talking about him and talking about his problems and her working through his problems for him, with him. And I'm like, girl, like, is he paying you? Because he screwed you over so bad, and yet you're sitting here acting as his therapist and trying to work him through his issues. Like, what? That's not your job, girl. You're not his girlfriend. You're not his friend. So why are you... It was bizarre on Hardin's part, because in Hardin's part, I'd be like, wow, I really screwed over this girl, so I'm going to do as much as I can to make it up to her, but not like trauma dump my own things onto her when I screwed her over myself. You know what I mean? On this journey, which, by the way, he decides to go to Portugal and try and find himself there by making amends with her, but also trying to grow there. And he keeps saying how he's trying and trying and trying throughout this film. But I'm like, how are you trying? Besides just being here. It takes him a while to proper apologize. At first he does like a half like, I'm sorry, and then leaves. And then she mentions what happened, and then he stays quiet. And then eventually he does say sorry to her and that he knows like that was a messed up thing to do. So it took him a while to apologize. And I'm like, oh my God, if it took you that long to apologize. Lack of accountability too. I just hate that because in her position, she's too nice to him. She's too gracious. Goes to dinner with him, introduces him to her friends. They have a good old time. And then her one guy friend, I don't know if they were hooking up or what, but guy friend I'll say, he outs him, and rightfully so, to take accountability for what he did. That I was so messed up that he's like, when she got here, I was the shoulder for her to cry on. And I heard all the messed up stuff you did to her, which was not okay. And then instead of owning up to it, Hardin literally leaves, bumps the guy on the shoulder, and then tries to binge drink. And then she again tries to take care of his ass and is like, no, and like tries to order the drinks off for the drinks to go away. And then she defends him and is like, oh, it was a long time ago, and it was the one guy that he spread it. Oh my God, no one holds this guy accountable. And the one guy that did, he still didn't own up to it. Mind you, this is all supposed to be his growth path journey. This is all this movie is supposed to be. It's been over a year since he's been done with Tessa, and he's also not supposed to be contacting her, but he still is, and is like, I'm doing this for you. And she's like, move on. And he's still not respecting that by continuously contacting her. Then it's literally not until the very end of this film, which mind you, I think would have been maybe over the span of like a few weeks, it looks like. Maybe a couple months. Let me know, book people, if it says in the book. This whole montage of him pouring out his drinks, spending more time with Natalie, the girl he screwed over, and that they look like they're good friends now. But it's just a montage. Realizing he needed Tessa's consent to publish a book about her. Because mind you, besides the verbal and emotional abuse that he put Tessa through, there was also him publishing a whole book about her without her consent. That's like the big thing that's weighing on him in this film. And so then by the time we get to the end and they reconcile, it's just so bizarre because they just show him apologizing for the non-consent thing. But that's it. Not for the, I realize I verbally abused you. I realize I emotionally abused you. I realize all of these things that I did to you were horrendous and atrocious. And I have gone to therapy. I've worked on myself. I've gone through anger management. None of that is literally just, I'm sorry. I realized that I should have gotten your consent for that book. And that's it. And then Tessa's like, oh my God, it's okay. And then they get back together. And then fast forward, they have a baby together. 2 babies, it looks like. Yep. They bang, like usual fashion, and that's it. They reconcile. The end. And I'm sitting here like...
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it.
You're serious. This is it. You're You got no showing of anything. If there was one person that needed therapy, it's Hardin. And again, I'm pretty sure someone said that the book, he does go through therapy, but they did not show that in the film. And I feel like they should have absolutely shown that in the film. That's so important. And for him to talk through his actual issue, like consent is obviously a huge issue, but his verbal abuse and emotional abuse, his jealousy issue, what about all his abandonment issues? What about all of those? Oh my God, there was no work through that and no closure about that. No growth path whatsoever. So I 1,000% would have not had these two end up together in the end. 1,000% would have at the very least had him end up with someone else that he can start anew with. And I don't think that Tessa should have taken him back whatsoever. It's been a few weeks of you writing a book and being friends with this girl. Buying her a house too. He buys her a whole house, so I'll give him that. And that's Natalie, by the way, not Tessa. He kind of does more for Natalie than Tessa. If anything, like he buys this girl a whole ass house. Imagine getting back together with your guy and he's like, I bought this girl a whole house. I'd be like, bitch, where's mine? That's insane. Overall, I definitely did not see a good growth path for Hardin. I do not think that they exemplified that well whatsoever. They should have shown him going through therapy. Maybe the timeline is off from what I'm thinking because like it doesn't say, like it said at the end that it's been 2 years since they've seen each other. And I believe at the start of the film, it was at least a year since they'd seen each other. Maybe it was over the span of months that he has been growing and learning, and that was that montage that had happened within the span of months. But still, it still didn't show him going through therapy, and I feel like that was the biggest one. Overall, bad. Conrad, on the other hand, overall good. Because yes, despite him not being toxic and just having a couple unhealthy qualities, he does go to therapy. Yay! And that one was great too, because he did go through panic attacks. He did have that issue of holding things in, and because he holds things in and it weighs down on him, like that does result in the panic attacks. So he goes through therapy to work through that, which is fantastic. Fantastic! Thank you! Thank you, therapy! Thank you, Conrad! Thank you, Jenny Han! And then in Conrad's case, this has been years later. I believe the timeline is 3 years after Jeremiah and Belly got together, and Conrad decided to let them be. And instead of continuously contacting her, like how Hardin was trying to do, he lets them be. Granted, it is his brother, so he has more reason to let them be and wants his brother, not just the love of his life, but his brother to be happy. And being that thoughtful, giving person of putting others before himself, that's what he does. Very healthy, in my humble opinion, to try and remain that distant contact, considering that he knows that he still loves her. So instead of trying to ruin things for the brother and for her, he steps away. So I personally think that was a healthy thing to do. And he works on himself. Overall, amazing. And then here, instead of what After did, which is showing them getting together right away after him just working on himself for a few months, but then not seeing how he has worked on himself and seeing that positive change, because in my humble opinion, before getting back together, they should have at least just hung out to see how he is, and for Tessa to see at the very least how changed of a guy he is before jumping right into it. Whereas in this case, when Belly and Conrad see each other again during this time period, they don't jump back into each other. Which, again, circumstances, she's marrying his brother, so yeah, obviously they won't jump back into each other right away. But that's also healthy, because we do see, in this case, the change that Conrad has made, and Belly herself gets to see the change in man that he has become. Within those 2 months, he is mature and exemplifies this on multiple occasions. He's a handyman, goes through house fixes. Oh, so happy. So happy. Oh my God, I love it. He is absolutely there for her, despite him not wanting to fall back into her, because he knows how in love with her he is and doesn't want to ruin things, but he also wants to help and be that helpful guy. So he puts everything aside and helps her throughout the day with all the wedding things, despite his feelings, despite him obviously dying on the inside. He helps her, which is just beautiful to see. And even more so, puts his pride aside by initially saying that he's going to be the best man for Jeremiah, or co-best man, and then also puts his feelings aside because he sees how much it's harming Belly not to be close to her mom, and how this has caused a rift in that relationship. So he even tries to make that relationship mend by talking to her mom and saying that she should be there for the daughter just for Belly's happiness. It's like, oh. It's just so many green flags, so many positive boxes that Conrad checks off that we get to see. And we get to see all of this without them being together, of why they should be together and what kind of a man, what kind of a husband that he could be for Belly, and what kind of support system that he could be for Belly. And he still apologizes, even though, frig, dude, I don't know how much you have to apologize for how you treated Belly, when in my opinion, again, you didn't treat her that bad, and you were depressed and going through your mom dying, but he still apologizes to her for everything and with how he treated her. You know, it wasn't that bad in my humble opinion. But that just shows how much of a stand-up guy he is, that he still will own up to his faults and still own up to his flaws and take it on his chest, you know, not blame other people, not make her feel bad about it, but takes it in on himself, which is fantastic. Let's just say, if, I'm not going to spoil, I'm just going to say if in the scenario that they do get back together, it would most likely be after she has also taken time for herself and reflected on her own actions. If they were to come back together, it would be at a time where both of them would have worked on themselves and grown themselves after some time apart, and not just jump right into it, considering that, again, it has been 3 years since they broke up, but there still is that growth that Belly needs to do herself, and I believe Conrad has done that growth himself, and he is ready, but maybe she's not. So in that case, I really appreciate Jenny Han and her writing in that sense, because automatically, this isn't spoiler because that episode has come out, Jeremiah and her aren't getting married. And she could have just run away with Conrad right then and there. She could have just been like, yeah, okay, I am in love with you. And because she knows she still is in love with him, let's give it another go. Just like how Tessa and Hardin, they just banged and just gave it another go. But no, that's not happening. Instead, she is going to take some time for herself as well, because she needs to. And so for that, I truly appreciate how healthy that is, and that by the time, if they do get back together, it would be in a healthier moment and in a time where they both are ready. Overall, to see the comparison, you can write a flawed relationship, you can exemplify a flawed male character without having it be toxic. And I feel like there are a lot of writers that they confuse the two. Oh, they have their flaws, but they work through their flaws, because that's relationships and that's life, is you guys go through your hard things and people do have things to work on and grow on, but they will do it and be with that person because they love that person. But there are certain attributes and qualities that are very toxic, and some behaviors that are super toxic, and that, in my opinion, shouldn't have to be worked on with one person in one partnership. It should be worked on yourself to then go to another partner, and that Hardin should have ended up with someone else to bring in a healthy relationship and start a fresh, healthy relationship. But that's just me. Conrad obviously slays over Hardin in every single aspect, and that's all I have to say about that. Thank you. Good night. Mwah.